Okay. See, I think my main thing is like, why exactly do you do this stream? Why do you need to like have this show where you bring Muslims on and you like have a conversation with them, but you're still trying to like impart your beliefs onto them? Like, why can't you just
Absolutely.
like let them like live their lives and what they believe?
Because and actually this the first guest actually asked the same question,
I
similar.
wasn't here for that.
Yeah, it's okay, but it's a common question. The reason why is because Jesus says that God sent his son into the world that the world
Hmm.
might be saved through him, through the son. And he says, whoever does not believe in the son is condemned already. Right.
Okay,
So
so
according to, so just let me just
yeah,
finish this
yeah,
out. So according to my belief, the only way to salvation in heaven is through the Son of God. And if there are people who do not have him, who do not believe in him, they are facing condemnation. And Jesus also tells us to go out and make disciples of all nations, right?
hmm.
And spread the truth. So that's why I do it. So especially to the Muslim people, they do not have belief in the Son of God. And so from my paradigm, they're facing condemnation, and I don't want that.
Okay, I'm sorry, about to make like a
And the Word
dark.
was God. And the Word was God.
And the word was
And the
God.
Word was God.
All right.
Yo, hello.
Hi.
So I have a few questions about Christianity, if that's okay.
That's okay.
So ironically, my mom is actually a Christian, and she will have your stream on like down in the kitchen when she's doing like kitchen tasks.
Really?
Yes. And like hearing your stream like to the side has like given me questions.
Okay. I'm
So
glad to
the
hear
thing is,
that.
I'm not also like not really a Muslim, but I don't really like. I'm also not really an atheist. Like I don't really believe in anything. The world
Mm.
is too complicated for us to understand it. So
Okay.
I would like to ask some questions about your argument and like what you do here.
Okay. What's your question?
So your main argument is that the Quran. I'm sorry if I like insult or anyone or
You
offend
trust,
anyone.
trust me, we're not a sensitive crowd here.
Okay.
You can be honest.
So your whole like argument is that the Quran is like based off of the Bible, like they took from the Bible, and about how like you have evidence that the Bible was like before and like the real thing, but this was over 2000 years ago. So I would like to know like where you're getting this from exactly. And like you also have to consider like language. Language evolves over time. Like if we
Mhm.
take like Shakespeare, that's technically English, but like we can barely understand it.
That is actually true. I was in my theater class and our coach gave us some Shakespeare to perform, and I had to almost look up every single word that was in the poem. So you're actually not wrong. I can barely understand Shakespeare. You're right. But that doesn't mean that Shakespeare was changed because I don't really understand it.
That's true, but like what I'm saying is like there's language differences. Like if I were to like let's say I'm trying to say something that was in Japanese, I'm trying to translate it to English, like there's certain like phrases that there's just no English words for.
That's true. So that's where transliteration comes from, and getting the concept across. Like maybe not every single word will be able to be translated, but if there is a concept or a phrase that captures the concept or meaning of the word, then that's what's used. You're right. Um, but that still that doesn't entail corruption. If we
That's
can
true, but
get
why are you
we can get
so
the meaning,
focused
is good.
on this corruption? Like,
Say
if
that again.
anything, the why are you so focused on this corruption?
Focus on the corruption.
Yes,
What do you mean? What
because
do you
like
mean?
the Bible could also be corrupt. Like we don't know. It was
We
thousands
but
of
we
years ago.
but we do know. We do know. We have the manuscripts. We have church fathers and church tradition that has preserved the tradition for 2,000 years. The manuscripts that have survived for 1,900 years and so on. Like we have these evidences, all of these manuscripts that say what we have today. You know, of
Okay.
course, there's going to be some textual variants here and there, but the meaning and the message always is the same.
Okay, you're talking about tradition, right? And
Yeah.
it's like tradition changes, you
But
know, and like
I'm
there's
talking
also
about the
people that go
scripts.
against tradition.
No. So I'm not talking about like, like ritual tradition, or I'm talking about the tradition of the message and the manuscripts, the New Testament, right? So I'm saying that the church has preserved the manuscript tradition and the message of the gospel of the New Testament. They've preserved it for 2,000 years.
I
So,
see.
so when we like, if I pick up, for example, let's say Codex Sinaiticus, that's a 300, it's in the 4th century, so in the 300s, it's a manuscript that exists in the 300s, right? I look at that, I read that, it matches what I have today. Now I'm not saying that word for word 100% everything is exactly the same, but what I'm saying is that even with the textual variances, the message and the meaning is still the same. The message and meaning is unchanged.
Okay. See, I think my main thing is like, why exactly do you do this stream? Why do you need to like have this show where you bring Muslims on and you like have a conversation with them, but you're still trying to like impart your beliefs onto them? Like, why can't you just
Absolutely.
like let them like live their lives and what they believe?
Because actually this the first guest actually asked the same question.
I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, it's okay, but it's a common question. The reason why is because Jesus says that God sent his son into the world that the world
Mhm.
might be saved through him, through the son. And he says, whoever does not believe in the son is condemned already. Right.
Okay,
So
so
according to, so just let me just finish this
yeah.
out. So according to my belief, the only way to salvation in heaven is through the Son of God. And if there are people who do not have him, who do not believe in him, they are facing condemnation. And Jesus also tells us to go out and make disciples of all nations, right?
Mhm.
And spread the truth. So that's why I do it. So especially to the Muslim people, they do not have belief in the Son of God. And so from my paradigm, they're facing condemnation, and I don't want that.
Okay, I'm sorry, about to make like a dark connection, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So the Crusades, right? That was like all about like spreading Christianity and like
The Crusades
trying to.
wasn't the
Well, I
Crusades was
mean, yeah, like it was portrayed and stuff, but like the
well,
main
no.
reason was like
What
take
I'm
over
saying,
the Holy Land, get it back.
no. A lot of people have this misconstrued. The
Okay.
Crusades was a response to Muslim occupation.
Yeah, so they were trying to take back the Holy Land.
Yes, so they were
Okay.
and
So,
from the
but like what I'm
Muslim.
saying is like when they were doing that, they're like trying to convert people and like force people into their beliefs. And it's like, why do we need to do that? Just let these people have their culture, have their traditions.
That's not what it was. It was to stop an evil regime. The
The evil
Muslims were
wait,
go,
wait, where did
the
the
Mus-
evil come from?
the Muslims were going around taking over their lands, taking over countries, and killing those who did not convert. So the Crusades was an answer to that, to stop them and to take back the lands, to push them back. That's what the Crusades was. But we can sit here and talk about all of that all day, but that's not
That's
the
true.
core issue. The
I
core
know, I
issue
know.
is, where does your soul go? What's the truth?
Oh, okay. I would actually
And
like
based
to
on that,
bring
where does
something
your
up about
soul
that.
go?
Okay, this is like more of my belief, right? So probably my most favorite thing that my mom tells me is that God has my life planned out, right? But she also tells me that God didn't make us robots. We have free will. And it's like, am I the only one that sees the contradiction in this?
What's the contradiction?
That our lives are planned out, yet we have free will.
Okay, so uh, from what I understand, from what your mom may be saying, is that that God has a plan for you. God has
Yes.
a plan for your life, not that every decision and every move
That's
or
true,
every
but if it
thing we
leads to that,
say,
is it
he
really
has
will?
ordained or called out. So God is. So there's an element of free will, obviously, where we can choose God and love Him, and there's also an element of God's sovereignty where His will is done and His plan comes into fruition, right? So there's nuance to that, but it's both and though. There's not you can't lean all the way to one side and the other. You can't say we have a free will without God's sovereignty. He has no control over what happens in the universe and yada yada yada. And then but you also can't say that God's sovereignty infringes on your free will. So there's a middle ground there.
That's true. Okay, that's also part of like what I want to bring up next. You mentioned the universe, and it's like how it was created, and so in the beginning, Genesis is like God was there. He was like watching the universe, and he was like, "Let there be light," right? So what I'm asking is, how did the universe get there? Did God make it? And like I'm gonna continue on with this. If God made it, then who created God? Where did God come from? Like he can't just spawn in. Like
if God created the universe, which is time, space, and matter.
Yep.
Time, space, matter, energy, all of that came into existence at the beginning of the universe. Okay. So whatever caused the universe to come into being has to be timeless, meaning eternal. He's infinite. He has to be immaterial because he's the one who created material, matter. And he has to be, what is it? Time. What I say? Time, space, matter. Oh, so spaceless, meaning he is omnipresent. He's not limited to a particular space. So by definition, God he's infinite. He's eternal. He has not ever come into being or began to exist. He's the one who started existence.
So, well, you just said it. You started existing. So
no, he didn't.
How did he start existing?
No, listen, you misheard me. I said he's the one who started existence.
I see.
So he said the word, snapped his finger, boom, existence began. Creation began.
So it's just a giant loop when you think about it.
Well, no, it's not. There is no loop.
Well, maybe a Mobius strip would be a better way to put it. A never-ending like line.
No, it's a linear line.
No. Then there would be a beginning and there would be an end.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what was before the beginning?
God.
Yeah, but you're saying my point is, how did God be there at the beginning? Like,
what are you missing?
Because you can't be saying like, how do I phrase it?
If God created time, is he limited to time?
Yes or no?
No, he can't be. He can't be. If he is the one who created time, he himself is without time. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, well, I also feel like that brings back the whole planned out part. But
focus here.
Okay.
If God created time, is he limited to time? If he's the one who made it up and created it in the first place?
I'd like to say that he's free to travel within the time.
So is he limited by time?
I mean,
is he bound by something he himself created?
No, he's not going to bind himself. But
so that would mean that he himself is eternal. He is without time. He's not bound by it. He's eternal. So when time began, before time began, there is God.
Okay. So what about before there was God? You get what I'm saying? Our human minds can't comprehend this.
Okay. Well, I did the best I could.
Yeah, I know.
But try to think a little bit about what we talked about. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next guest. Okay?
All right.
I appreciate you.
Yep. See ya.
Sheldon. So Sheldon, you said you're a Muslim.
Yes.
Awesome. Just to test it, can you say Yeshua Akbar?
No, I can't say that.
Why not?
because it means that Jesus is greater.
You don't believe that?
No, not greater. He's not greater than God.
Why don't you believe he's greater?
He was just a messenger. He said it himself.
He was just a messenger. Where does Jesus say he's just a messenger?
He says it in the Quran.
He says, I'm just a messenger?
Or he says something that alludes to that. But I want to touch on what you were talking about with the brother.
Whoa.
No, please, because I'm on a time limit. So I do want to just to.
Whoa. Excuse me, Your Highness and host of the show.
Well, I'm not trying to rush you.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to, get in on your time, my dear, your grace. Excuse me. Sorry. I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. Forgive me, Your Grace. Forgive me.
Nah, you don't have to do that.
But usually, Your Grace, from what I've seen on your show, is that usually when people say something, the proof has to be brought and substance has to be brought. Your Grace, forgive me.
I'll touch on that, but I would like to touch on what you were talking to the previous brother about.
But Your Grace,
consistencies in what you were saying.
But Your Grace, forgive me again, please.
Do that,
please forgive my indulgence, but Your Grace.
You don't got to do that.
Proof? Well, I do. I mean, you're on a time limit.
Not really.
Your show.
You're really just salting right now.
I'm sorry, Your Grace, and forgive me of my ignorance. But I believe that for the audience and for everyone here, and even for myself, substance is key for things that are said. When you say something like Jesus out of his own mouth, Your Grace, and forgive me again, that Jesus himself said that he's only a messenger in the Quran, that holds weight, Your Grace. So I would like to see that, or if you're retracting that, that's fair, and we can move on. Do you retract that?
I'll retract it for now because I'm really just trying to move on.
Retract it for now. So are you saying that it does exist, but just for moving on purposes, you want to?
Yes. Again, I just want to talk about what you were talking about.
Again, Your Grace. For me, I'm not okay with that. Respectfully, Your Grace. I need to know if this exists in the Quran or if it doesn't, because that's important to me and for the audience of the stream. I would think we all agree. Forgive me again, Your Grace.
All right, fine. I'll retract the statement, and we can move on.
So you retract the statement permanently, forever. Mm-hmm. So Jesus never said, "I am only a messenger in the Quran." He never said that.
No. Let's just move on.
All right, cool. All right, what do you want to touch on?
Again, so I found some inconsistencies on what you were telling the brother about what happened with what Uthman did and how he standardized the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
So again, he just didn't do it himself. He did it with the companions of the Prophet.
Companions of the Prophet?
That knew the Quran. They memorized it.
They memorized it?
Yep.
Zayd bin Thabit memorized the Quran?
Not all of them, but most of the companions knew the Quran by heart.
Okay, so how do you know that Al-Zubair, Alas, Hisham, how do you know that they memorized the Quran?
Because Uthman chose them.
That doesn't mean that they memorized the Quran.
Why would he choose them if they did?
For example, you know who Ibn Masud is?
Yes.
So Ibn Masud, one of the 4 people that Muhammad pointed to say, if you want to learn the Quran, or to learn the Quran, learn from these 4. And the first person he pointed to was Ibn Masud. Why didn't he pick Ibn Masud? Why didn't he pick Ubay ibn Ka'b, who's also one of those men?
I'm not too sure.
If he wanted to pick people who were the best at the Quran, he picked 4. Muhammad pointed at 4 people best to learn the Quran from, who memorized it, learned it straight from him, and none of those 4 did he pick.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he just wasn't able to.
I wouldn't say that. Ibn Masud actually disagreed with what Uthman was doing. Did you know that?
How so?
He told his students, do not turn your Qurans in, hide them. And he also, in this, he threw a shot at Zayd bin Thabit, who he says, I know more of the Quran than Zayd. What authority does he have? I know the Quran better than all of them. And the hadith says, and no one refuted him or spoke up against him because they knew he was right.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wanted to be accurate and do the best, I would assume that he would pick Ibn Masud, Ubay ibn Ka'b, and I forget the other two names that Muhammad mentioned, but those four people, he would pick them. Why does one of those people disagree with what Uthman is doing if what he's doing is right and everybody's in unison on this?
Well, people have different opinions, so the what matters was that the Quran was perfectly preserved.
According to who?
Well, can you prove that it wasn't?
What if you claim that the Quran was perfectly preserved? You like, so for example, Ibn Masud had something in his Quran that you don't have in your Quran today.
What do you have?
So in chapter 19, verse 3, Ibn Masud's Quran read differently than how yours reads.
How did it read?
So if you go to chapter 92, verse 3, it says this in your Quran today, in your Hafs version.
It says, and by the one who created male and female.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And by him who created male and female. Now, in Ibn Masud's, let me pull up the hadith really quick. Let me see. I'd have to go. Hold on, give me 1 second. Got it saved in my bag. In my little album. I just need to get this reference real quick, and I'll be put it right on the screen for us all to see. All right, so now that one, where is it at? 92.3. Oh, I accidentally deleted it. All right. Well, does anybody have that reference specifically about that hadith? Let me put this up just for so that everybody can see. Here it is, right here. Narrated Ibrahim. The companions of Abdullah bin Masud came to Abu Darda. He looked for them and found them. Then he asked them, who among you can recite the Quran as Abdullah recites it? Abdullah bin Masud. They replied, all of us. He asked, who among you knows it by heart? They pointed at Al-Qama. Then he asked Al-Qama, how did you hear Abdullah bin Masud reciting Surah Al-Layl, the night? Al-Qama recited, by the male and the female. And Abu Darda said, I testify that I heard the Prophet reciting it likewise. But these people want me to recite it, and by him who created male and female. But by Allah, I will not follow them. So did you guys hear him? How it's in their Quran. It's recited as saying, hold on, let me do this real quick. Let me put them both. I'm gonna put them both on the screen so we can see it. Just so we can see it. We can see them both side by side. All right. Boom, y'all see it? By the male and the female is how Abdullah read his Quran. By the male and the female. And the wrong way to do it, according to Abu Darda and Ibn Masud, is by him who created male and female. That's what's in your Quran today. So the way that Ibn Masud recited the Quran here is different from what you have in your Quran today. And Abu Darda said, by Allah, I will not follow the Quran that you guys have. By Allah. Oops. Oh, shoot. By Allah, won't do it. So this is the hadith, guys, 4944. Sahih Bukhari, 4944. An explicit difference. All right. So there we go, man. All right, let's go ahead and bring up the next guest here.